On ABC's This Week, they debated Jeb Bush's foreign policy speech, which of course laid out a vision exactly like George W. Bush. Let's watch.
I think the biggest reason that Jeb Bush wants to be his own man is because of the complete debacle of the Bush-Iraq policy. I mean, we cannot forget that we are in the space we're in now because of that invasion that was based on falsehoods in every single conceivable way, and the tremendous loss of money and treasure and blood. And of course he wants to try to escape that legacy.
But then he laid out a policy, a very muscular policy agenda that sounded a lot like his brother's.
I'm not like them, but I am kind of like them.
He supported NSA surveillance. He called for increased funding in the Pentagon. I mean, here he is saying, I am my own man. And then he laid out a speech that sounded, a lot like his brother.
Well, those are good policies. I mean, this is silly, the whole
Iraq is a policy?
More spending on defense and defending the NSA program, I think, is a good policy. And that's what the campaign is going to be about. Let Jeb Bush defend the NSA, let Rand Paul attack it, and let's see what people think. But all this talk about, is he more like his father, is he more like his brother, I think that stuff's going to disappear very quickly.
I think we cannot escape how much damage that Iraq policy of George W. Bush did to this country. And of course,
when George W. Bush left office, Iraq was safe and peaceful, thanks to the surge.
No. Actually, there was always rumblings and danger in that place. It was a
thanks to Maliki, the Sunnis were being alienated, and that's nothing that we had anything to do with.
Yes, it is. Of course it is. He said, thanks to Maliki, the Sunnis were being repressed, and that's what led to anger in the Sunni community. How does that not have something to do with us? We put the Shiites in power. He's like, the Shiites were terrible to the Sunnis, but that's not our fault. We put the Shiites in power, you idiot. We de-Baathified the government. We got the Sunnis out of the government, and we put the Shiites in power. It's obviously our fault. What are you talking about? That's a direct result of us meddling in the region. And look at Bill Kristol, man. What a joke of a human being. I don't know how he sleeps at night. I mean, obviously he sleeps like a fucking baby because he's still convinced that he did the right thing. But, dude, you made the most horrible predictions about Iraq. Remember, Bill Maher ripped him a new asshole a few months ago on his show. But he said it right there. Oh, no, Iraq under George W. Bush was, quote, safe and peaceful. Oh, really? It was safe and peaceful. At which point? You do know 200,000 Iraqi civilians are dead. Thousands of American soldiers are dead. Millions of people are displaced. Like we just discussed, you riled up the Sunni community because you took away all their power. The Shiites got drunk on power and oppressed the Sunnis. At what point was it was peaceful and fantastic? What, a day into the war? When they were pulling down the Saddam statue for like 15 minutes, everything was good, and then after that it went to shit. What do you mean it made Iraq safe and peaceful? No, see, the neoconservatives, so Bill Kristol, Paul Wolfowitz, Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, George W. Bush, they have mastered the art of Orwellian doublespeak. Because I remember during the surge, how the surge is working. During the surge, they would argue that whenever there was an increase in so-called insurgent violence, they would say, that obviously shows that the insurgency is in its last throes. Therefore, the increase in violence is evidence that the surge is working. That's the argument they would use. But then when things got more calm, they would say, well, it's more calm now, so the surge is working. But then when the violence would go back up, they would go, see, again, they're in their last throes. The surge is working. So whether violence increases or decreases, you come to the same fucking conclusion. So you've set up a claim that's non-falsifiable. No matter what evidence comes in, you always say that that's evidence that the surge is working. Well, you know what that means? It means that no matter what, you have your fucking mind made up and you don't give a shit about the evidence. That's what it means. So how blind are you? How big of an ideologue are you? Where you can't help yourself, you have to, all the time, you always defend the Iraq war reflexively. You're just a reactionary. It was great, it was safe and peaceful. At what point when the 200,000 civilians were dying would you consider it safe and peaceful? And then he talks about, the problem is when Obama left the region. No, the problem is that you went in there at all to begin with. Once you went in there and fucked everything up, you made it so that it's going to devolve into chaos at some point, whether we leave now, whether we leave 10 years from now, 30 years from now, or 180 years from now. It's going to be chaotic. Why? Because you destabilized the region when you got rid of the strong man Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination. He was a terrible, brutal dictator. But he also, at the same time, did stabilize the region. perhaps the best thing to do in situations around the world that have nothing to do with us is to understand that they have nothing to do with us and for us to stay out.